Hey everybody, what's going on? Helmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today, if you couldn't tell by the footage, I want to talk about the brand new Aatrox rework and kind of give my first impressions and thoughts on his sort of update. So, first and foremost, I actually really like it. I know there are a lot of people who are saying, oh, I hate this doesn't feel at all like the old Aatrox, and they're not wrong. It doesn't feel like Aatrox, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that the new champion obviously is going to feel different from Aatrox. He doesn't have any of the same auto attack, drain tanking playstyle that the old one did, and we knew that going into this, right? Like we absolutely knew that Aatrox wasn't going to have the auto attack based playstyle because of how his kit works now. He doesn't have much drain tanking. At most, he gets 20% of his physical damage as healing innately from the E, and that's if he maxes E. So we kind of knew he wasn't going to have that to rely on. But all that being said, I do think that Aatrox still feels really nice to play, and I think he kind of still fits the theme as sort of a demon or Lord of War. I think it works out because of the fact that he has these giant area of effect damaging spells he can use. His ultimate actually feels really nice in fights because it's sort of like, yeah, you can kill me, and I'm just going to come back anyways. And interestingly enough, his kit kind of fits a delicate balance between auto attack based and ability based. I think Aatrox still wants to be auto attacking. That's the majority of his sustained damage, and obviously you want to be getting your Deathbringer stance procs in there because it does a really decent chunk of damage. But the biggest thing is that you are still very dependent on your Q. You want to be using that to get a lot of damage down onto enemy champions, and your kit is more or less all about your Q. Aatrox, the Riven comparisons are not entirely wrong because it is very much so a little bit about Riven. He does feel like that because just in the sense that you play around his specific cooldown. You play around the Q, and once Aatrox has used it, that's your opportunity to trade with him. That's your opportunity to try and go for the kill because that's the majority of his damage and that's the majority of what he wants to be doing in fights. So that's the one thing I will say about him is that that's where the Riven comparisons really fit, but I feel like the rest of it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because Riven has the ability to kind of fight even without her Q. That's the majority, but she's also significantly more mobile, significantly squishier. I don't think it's entirely fair to say, oh, this champion is just Riven too, because that's, like I said, you do a lot more damage than Riven, I think, and you have a lot less mobility, so. But the biggest thing with Aatrox is that I do feel like the rest of his kit is pretty lackluster outside of Q and its interactions with E. W really doesn't feel like it does that much, if we're being completely honest. The other thing is that his E essentially just exists to be slave to his Q. Obviously, you can cast it by itself, and it's okay, but it's majorly used to either get extra distance on the Q or to fake out your opponent. So that's the biggest thing with that. But the most important thing to me, though, is that if you really look at Aatrox's power budget, I don't think he had a lot else he could do with this kit. Like, yeah, E's a really dinky dash, doesn't do much on its own, but that's because you can't afford to have Aatrox have that much else on his kit, given how disruptive and how damaging his Q can be, given the automatic revive he has. Aatrox is the only champion in the game that is guaranteed to get a revive if he does something. And Anivia has a fairly long cooldown where she cannot. Same deal with Zac. Aatrox, meanwhile, as long as his ultimate is available, which is not that long of a cooldown, he is guaranteed to revive in a fight. Now, obviously you want to be popping your ultimate as early as you can in a fight because otherwise it doesn't do a whole lot for him. You'll only revive with 15% of your max HP, which just means you're going to die again immediately. But provided you can get your ultimate going early in a fight, I think that Aatrox is actually quite strong. And the sort of movement speed it gives feels kind of doinky, but if you can find a flank with it, I think it ends up being quite strong. And obviously out of combat, it doesn't really last long enough for it to matter outside of combat, but I think it's still pretty good. So overall, I'm actually pretty happy with Aatrox's kit given how it is. He does feel different from the old Aatrox, yes, but I think that it's still an interesting champion design. I think he feels a lot more like a warlord demon now. And in general, I'm enjoying this quite a lot. I think he's actually quite strong. And that's kind of the biggest reason I'm disappointed that Riot went for another day one hotfix. I really disagree with these. I think you should not be touching a champion for balance at all their first day, let alone their first week. I think that, if anything, you should be sitting on this champion and waiting to see if players can get used to them and how they're actually playing them before you decide you're going to do anything. If I had my way, I'd say, right, you literally cannot change a recently reworked or released champion until the next patch is the earliest time you have to do it. Unfortunately, I'm not in charge, but I would like to see a lot fewer day one hotfixes, because I can almost guarantee you right now, I'm going to call my shot here, guys. Aatrox is going to get nerfed in the next 3 months. He is going to get nerfed because people are going to learn how to play him, and he got hotfix buffs that he didn't need, and now he's too strong. It's just what I'm going to say right now. But, so in general, I would love to see fewer of them. I don't think Aatrox needed them in the first place. Obviously, that he got them, he has them now, so he's going to be even stronger than he was before. So I think he's going to be a really solid pick, and definitely one to learn how to play. Very different from the old Aatrox. If you did play the old one, you will have to spend a little bit of time figuring out how to play the new one. But I think if you can master him, he's going to be very rewarding. In terms of his pro play viability, I don't really see Aatrox cropping up. I think he has a lot of damage and a lot of disruption, but I feel like Aatrox is best played into lots of tanks. If he has a sort of front line he can brawl with, that's where Aatrox is the strongest. I don't feel like you really want to be fighting with Aatrox in scenarios where you have lots of very squishy champions. I think generally you want to be playing him when you have a front line that he can kind of fight with, get the healing down, and generally do things there. So that's just kind of my thought, and the meta doesn't really favor that. I could see Aatrox, new Aatrox, maybe seeing play as like a bot lane carry, but I think in general you have better options for that. You have the Ryze, you have the Swain, you have the Aurelia or Renekton, even if you're trying to go for AD fighters. So I don't see Aatrox seeing play in that regard. But I do think that Aatrox is pretty strong, and especially if he gets even more buffs, I think he's almost going to be a shoo-in just due to how much damage he does. But those are just kind of my first few thoughts on Aatrox. Obviously, I'll keep playing him over the weekend. If anything changes, I'll let you guys know. But that's kind of my initial impressions of Darkin Blade. Let me know what you guys are thinking of him down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts, if you've had success on him, what you've been building on him, how you've been playing him. If you're an Aatrox main, let me know what you think of him. Obviously, he's going to be very different from what you're used to, but let me know if you think this is a good direction for him to go in, or if you just really wanted the old Aatrox back. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well, and if you're looking for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, link down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.